What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the All Sports Best podcast. I'm Trey Gonzalez here with Ben Freston, who I introduced on the last time we had a podcast together as a physical therapist, which he still is. But today he is interviewing as an athlete, ultramarathon runner, which is super cool. I want to learn all about it. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Trey. Thanks for having me back here again. It's been fun. It's been a challenging training period, but I'm glad to rehash it with you.
I can't even imagine. You never ran 100 miles in preparation for the 100-mile race, right?
Right. Most of the training that they talk about, it's more of building miles up in the week. So it's an accumulative miles throughout the week. So most of my training looked like I'll have days where I'm running 15, 20, 25, even up to 30 miles in a day. But other than that, nothing more than the 30 miles in one go.
Sure. Okay. The one that you did was on a 25-mile loop?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the race that I did, it was 4 loops, 25 miles a piece, and you alternated the direction that you went. So the first lap you'd go clockwise, second lap you go counterclockwise.
Oh, okay.
And you do that 4 times. The nice thing is it kind of changes up your perspective of the terrain that you're on, things like that. You kind of see it from a different point of view.
So it's like repeating something twice instead of 4 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it breaks up the monotony a little bit.
What was the terrain like?
Pretty rough and rugged. It's kind of
Okay.
like the terrain that we have out here. A lot of hard packed dirt, but a lot of gravel and a lot of loose rock in a lot of areas. There's some nicer areas that you're kind of coming across. Of course, 25 miles is a long way, so you can kind of come across a bit diverse areas. They had mentioned in advance on the website that there's hardly any flat areas, and they were true to their word on that. Everything was up or down on that, so
That's brutal.
it was a challenge. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Did you have a chance to track all the calories that you burned?
My watch gave me an estimate on that. And I know that watches aren't 100% accurate, but it gave me an estimate of about 14,000 calories.
Oh, yeah.
So
Makes
I would
sense.
say that I probably consumed, I was trying to think about it the other day. I think I probably consumed between 6,000 to maybe 7,000 calories during that time with all the different gels, gummies, goos, and the time I had to sit down and eat something a little more substantial. But I mean, you're trying to pack a lot in and
Yes.
have some stay power throughout that whole run.
So huge deficit. Did you lose pounds? How many pounds?
So I weighed myself the day after I finished, and I was down 10 pounds.
Okay.
So after I had consumed a bit of food and replenished some fluids and stuff, I was still down 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Still now?
No, now I'm
Okay.
not, but just the day after. So,
Okay. Oh,
you know,
gotcha.
during that night, I, ate a bunch of food, got some fluid in me. And then by the time I got home, back in town here and I weighed myself, I was still down 10 pounds from my original weight before the race.
Okay. This is something for me because I'm a big foodie. You know this. Matter of fact, you sent me a picture
I did.
the day before, I think, or the
Yeah, it
day
was the day before. I was over at Jersey Mike's.
you went to Jersey Mike's, and did you like it?
I did. It was really good.
It's a good spot.
That's a really good.
You finish, you're battling through this, and I want to talk about all the things that come with the mental side of it, physical side of it, all that. But you're done. Big relief. What do you go and eat?
Well,
When you recover, because I imagine it's not like right away. You can just eat whatever.
right. Yeah. Usually there's a big issue with a lot of stomach, gastrointestinal stuff after big, long runs like this. A lot of stress on your body. And so you tend to find those things that settle well with you. Usually for me, though, on a long run, I like coming home and just, scrambling up a bunch of eggs and have a protein shake. That's usually kind of my go-to after a long run, which usually is between 20 to 30 miles is that's kind of like what I like to recover with.
Yeah.
So it settles well with my stomach. I do okay with it. It's not something that's going to make me angry later.
Yeah, sure. So when you're done with that, you get to the recovery point. Now what do you eat? Anything?
Anything.
Okay.
Anything and everything. Yeah.
Sure.
At that point, like you are just starving. And that's one thing that's really interesting when you're running out there. You don't realize how hungry you get. And you just get starving and you just want to put anything in your mouth that you can get your hands on. But when you're out on the trail, you kind of have to be, again, attentive and aware to being smart. What you're going to put in there is going to reflect on your stomach's going to feel like later.
I was going to say, you're going to feel every single thing you eat, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything that like hindered you?
Fortunately not. You know, I was telling some friends of mine that this race could not have gone any better for me. Weather was nice. You know, I didn't have any stomach issues that I've had before in training. You know, it's one thing because I've never run that much and that long. And so that was my biggest concern is what is my stomach going to do in the middle of the night or 3 a.m. You know, your body digests things differently on different times of the day based off of your circadian rhythms and things like that. And so, you know, having to now consume something heavy at 3 a.m. or, you know, whatever time it is, and hoping that your stomach is going to digest that thing well is kind of a hope and a prayer that you're not going to be sick or you're going to have some, you know, major issues that you're having to find a bathroom really quick. So,
yeah, that's something I don't ever think about. You know, I just think, you know, you're running, your body's just kind of continuing on the same path. You're not thinking about it's needing sleep right now or whatever. How long did it take for you to complete?
I finished it in just under 30 hours. I was looking at the time on it again earlier today. It was 29 hours, 58 minutes, and 32 seconds, I believe.
So a sub 30 hours, baby.
Sub 30 hours. That was my goal going into this based off of what my training looked like, what my timing was look like on all my runs. You know, 30 was what I was kind of hoping and aiming for on a first-time trial.
Yeah. So. Okay. Can you tell me, like mentally and physically, through the quarters? So like the first 25, what did that look like? And then the second and third and fourth?
So the first time, you know, starting off, you're feeling good, you're feeling fresh. We started at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're already starting. It's a little warmer. It's humid where we were. It's in Bandera, Texas. But because it's new, it's fresh, you're feeling good as you get going. About 7 o'clock, I think, is when the sun goes down. So I'm 15 miles in, reaching that 15-mile point, and the sun goes down, so I'm having to break out my headlamp and everything. And for whatever reason, I think maybe I didn't fuel myself well enough before, like it hit hard, and I was just tired. So kind of slugged on through the next 10 miles till I got back to that starting point again. But after I had a chance to sit down, grab something to eat, top off my fluids, change out my gear, everything, I got back on the trail and I was feeling good. It may have been partially because it was cooler out there. Now the sun's down. So at this point, it's probably 9 o'clock or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Get going out there. There's always concerns when it's dark. You know, you kind of are more cautious as a runner, watching where you're putting your foot and everything like that. But I felt good. And so that second lap seemed like a breeze. It seemed like it went by really quickly. So I felt really good. And then coming in, getting changed out, getting ready for lap 3.
So that's when you changed.
Yeah. So I changed it every 25 mile, every 25 mile mark. I had a new change of, shorts, undershorts, shirts, socks and shoes. I changed those all out. And I'd wipe myself down with wipes all the time. So I wasn't so grimy and dirty and just felt gross. So every time I started, I felt fresh and clean. And I think psychologically it helps. Just kind of like, okay, I'm fresh, I'm clean, I'm new, I'm ready to hit the trail again. Not to mention I'm not going to get weird chafing in other areas because I'm able to kind of clean off all of that filth. Lap 3, started off feeling pretty good again. Sun's still down. It was about an hour and a half before the sun came up, and then you started to feel the heat kind of picking up a little bit. Day 2 got up to during that third lap, that second day, it got up to about 90 degrees out there. And I think the humidity, when I checked, it was about 45%. Ooh. So, a bit more than it is here. Yeah. So not something we can train a whole lot here for, but I knew it was going to be a potential issue there. So I think lap 3 was pretty rough. As it got warmer out there, it kind of slowed down pace, had to walk a little bit more in a couple areas. But just kind of kept plugging along and, having a lot of other people out there on the trail you kind of interact with. You never want to be seen walking by other people. So you're always kind of jumping back into running when you start coming across somebody or you got somebody coming up behind you. You never want to let somebody pass you. So you always kind of pick up the pace a little bit. And those are the things that kind of keep you going when you're out on the trail. One thing that was always, I think kind of something a perk that I kept looking forward to is every 5 miles you have a watering station.
Okay.
And they really bragged on this as being a very bare bones kind of ultra. So every watering station had just water and just ice. So you had a couple got coolers with water, and you had a big Yeti cooler with ice in there. And that was it. Other races will have, food, all this different kind of stuff, drinks, things like that to kind of help keep you going. But I think to keep costs down on the race, everything like that, this was very bare bones. But I really got excited looking forward to each watering station for the ice. And so I'd fill up my water pouch with water or ice, and then I'd always get a big handful of ice before I left out on the trail again. I would just kind of chew and suck on ice for the first couple minutes till it was gone, and then I'd get going again. That always was very refreshing to me and kind of helped pick me up a little bit. And so as I was drawing closer to each water station, that was the thing I was probably the most excited about. So that got me through the third lap. That one may have taken me probably the longest out of all 4 laps. And lap 4, I started off, it was a little rough. Get going because the earlier part of that one, you're going up some really big hills, and I got up to the first 5 mile water station, and I was talking to a lady there, just talking about, I'm tired, things are sore and achy, and she said, "Well, I'm sorry to mention this to you, but it's not going to get any better." And at that point, it's like, all right, it's an aha moment. It's like, you know what, you're right, it's not going to get any better.
Right.
It's like, I might as well just suck this up. I got, 20 miles to go. So this is the last lap.
So at this race, they're giving you water, ice, and no encouragement.
Exactly.
Pretty hardcore.
Discouragement.
Exactly.
We're going to beat you down. Yeah. Just say, good luck, son.
Yeah.
Hope you trained for this.
She was like this close to being like, you're not finishing.
Exactly. It's like, you might as well give up now. I mean, it's still 20 miles to the finish.
Yeah.
But that kind of like just brought into my memories. Like, you know what, this isn't going to be an easy race. I knew that going into it. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of motivated me, pushing me, said, you know what, just push it. You got 20 miles left. This is your last lap. Give it all you got. And so from that point there, I was just kind of kept pushing as best I could. I actually came across a lady who I'd seen earlier in the race. She had to bow out of the race because she had rolled her ankle pretty bad. But at this point, she was just kind of walking up the trail with her husband, and I stopped and talked to her a little bit, kind of see how things were going, how she was feeling. And because I was running down the hill at this point, she's like, "Man, I'm impressed. Like about 85 miles into this thing, and you're still running." Is like, this lady up here told me,
right? Exactly.
It's not going to get any better, so you might as well keep running. So, that was a kind of big motivator. And so anytime I come across somebody that I'd recognized, or, just kind of keep thinking about that, is like, you know what, you're almost there. I mean, you're 80, 85, 90 miles into this thing, and you're still going. There's no reason for you to quit. You've got this taken care of. And then coming in, so I was, keeping an eye on my watch, kind of keeping check on that 30 hour mark.
Oh yeah.
And it was probably about 7 miles left. So 93 miles in, it's like, I got to kind of push this a little bit harder if I'm going to make it. That time, it's like, I can do it, but I'm gonna have to push it a little bit harder to get there. And so about, miles 6 or 7 leading into the end of it, like I just started pushing it. And fortunately at this point, like my feet had been feeling pretty good. I mean, they're achy and sore, but no blisters or anything like that, which is another thing to be concerned of. And I just started pushing it. And I would say maybe the last 2 to 3 miles started feeling a hot spot developing to the base of my big toe on my right foot. And at that point, it's like, oh, that's too bad, because we only got 2 miles left. So we're pushing the sucker. And I just pushed it pretty hard for that last couple miles. Felt really good to push that hard, knowing like I've been running for over 95 miles and I still have this energy, this stamina to push this hard into the last couple miles of this race. And I remember turning that last corner, coming around the bend, and you could see the finish line, and it's just, you just got so much adrenaline running in you, and just, blow on through that finish line, and felt so good there. And of course, shortly after that, that's when everything hits you, and then you just kind of like crash. But it was that fourth lap felt good. I'd say the last half of it felt really good. Sure. And again, considering the big thing that kind of kept me going was the fact that you've already done 80 plus miles. Like, you're solid. You've got this. Even if you walked the rest of the way, you'd still get in before their cutoff time. But it was always something that I wanted to run as much as I could during this race and finish strong as best I could.
What is the cutoff time?
For this one, online they said 36 hours, but as we were talking with them, 44 hours when they had everything cleaned up and they're out of there. So if you're not in before that time, then you're kind of out there on your own.
Dang, okay. So did you know your finishing place?
I do know my finishing place. Well, and when I was running, I was kind of guessing, and it sounded about right anyway when I finished. I finished 6th overall.
Wow, that's impressive.
I was 5th guy to finish. There was one lady that had finished before me, and I was the first in my age bracket to finish as well. They originally started off, I think 43 people started the race and 23 finished the race.
Wow.
So
just finishing is a great feat, like really.
Yeah, it's huge. And so you look at some of the people who finished at the very end of it, who still finished. Yeah, they were in the 40-hour range. And so I know they were people just kind of slugging and pushing along as best they could. And, kudos to them for finishing. Like, again, this is not an easy feat. Anybody to finish 100 miles is respectable.
That's what I was going to say. Like, just getting through it is an achievement in itself. But did you get anything for it?
They gave me a belt buckle.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what do you mean? Like a rodeo one?
It's not that big, but it's, I should have brought it. I thought of bringing it, but it's about yay big or so. And it says Cactus Rose 100 on there. And it's got a little image of a lizard and stuff on there. It's a nice belt buckle, but I'm not a belt buckle person. So it's just kind of hanging up where all my medals are for all the other races.
Just a hard tuck in the front so everybody sees it.
So it's like, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but I finished the race here. I got this belt buckle.
When you were talking about that lady that rolled her ankle, it made me think about where are you looking during this long, enduring race? Are you looking up ahead just to make sure you aren't going to run into something? Or I'd imagine there's animals that could be on this.
Yeah, and especially at night, I heard a bunch of rustling in the trees and stuff on the sides. And so you're not really sure what's out there. There's a number of occasions I saw some rabbits out there.
Did you take anything to protect yourself, or is it just legs and fists?
It's been legs and fists. If I had to fight something off, it was going to be bare hands.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't have anything out there with me. I wasn't too concerned. Usually if there's enough people around, it's going to discourage animals from kind of hanging out. But to go to your question as far as where you looked, mainly kind of at the ground. Because again, when you have unsteady ground, rocks, gravel, dirt, loose, everything, you're really kind of being attentive to where you're putting your foot. Yeah. Because again, you roll your ankle like that young lady. She was out of the race, and I think she may have been on lap 2 when she went out. And so it's, kind of sad to see something like that happen early on into the race, because you have no control over some of that stuff. No matter how much training you put into it, you get an injury like that, you're put out, and it's kind of a bummer to see that happen. And so you spend a lot of time looking down at the ground. Occasionally you can kind of look around and see what's there, and you'll find yourself just kind of stopping for a moment and just kind of looking around, kind of, I think, appreciating where you are. There's a part of the race where you come up at the very top of this hill, and the whole point of this is to kind of get a view of the surrounding area. It's a really beautiful area out there, a lot of trees, and I think that was one saving grace for the hot days, is the fact that a lot of the trail was still in some shade. But you get up at the top of this hill, and there's a bench up there, and you can just kind of look out over the land and just enjoy the beauty of it. And so I'd see a bunch of people that kind of stop, take pictures and things like that. I think I'm terrible with it when it comes to pictures. I think I got 4 pictures of the whole thing. I got a picture of me at the starting line, a picture of me somewhere on my 4th lap.
Oh, really? Dang. Not till the end.
Right. And then I got a picture of where my gear was kept. And I think maybe one picture up at the top of that hill. I don't remember, but yeah, I don't really have a whole lot from it. I'm terrible at documenting things like that. I was there for one reason, and that was to accomplish something. And, the memories are in my brain, and that's about it.
That's kind of hardcore. I came for one reason, and I got it done. Did David Goggins go through your mind at all?
I wouldn't say he went through my mind necessarily, no. I had a lot of good friends here in town as part of a running group that we have. And, some of the things they talked about, kind of were on my mind during part of it. And sad thing is I've normally been listening to podcasts as I'm doing my training. And there wasn't any service out there, so I wasn't able to listen to any of that. I had brought my iPod just as a backup in case, either my phone died or whatever. But then that was on the fritz too. And so there was one point, I think it was on lap 3, I had brought an extra little battery pack to charge things up if things die. So I have this battery pack in one pocket. I got cords that are leading up to this iPod, trying to charge that up, plus also linked up to my watch because my watch is dying. And so I had all these wires and cables. And
how did you do it to your watch? You had to like keep your
I had
hand close?
I had to take my watch off, strap it to my pack, and then just hook the power cord up to it. So it still tracked your GPS. It just wasn't tracking my like heart rate.
Oh, so
like
it might have
that.
been 15, 16.
So my calories, it could have been more.
Yeah.
You never know.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay.
So I didn't really get a chance to listen to anything for 30 hours other than my own heart rate and breathing and my own self-talk.
What iPod is? Are we talking about like a Nano?
It was
like
a Nano.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so really lightweight.
Yeah, really lightweight,
really old
small.
school.
But it just, for whatever reason, it was dead when I pulled it out. I don't know if it just battery just drained. I don't know. And so, I wasn't able to really listen to anything. It would kind of be on the fritz. I'd get it to work for a little bit, but then it like fritz out. So I just stuck it in my pocket. I didn't want to mess with it while I'm out there on the trail.
I'm gonna have to show you how to download podcasts so you don't have to use data for it.
Well, and I had intended to do that before, but I totally spaced it out because I have done that. So if I know that I'm going into like a long run like this, I'll download a few of them just so that they're there ready to go. Because there's been times I go up running in Cloudcroft, didn't have access to anything, and so I'd have a bunch of them downloaded, and that worked out well. I just had forgotten the night before. That was a big mistake on my behalf.
So the iPod did kind of work here and there.
Yeah, it did a little bit, but
most of the time it was just you and your thoughts.
And I think it may have been like my headphones, like the button on it or stuff was causing something to go on the fritz. So it was kind of messed up. Yeah, so it was just a lot of my thoughts, a lot of self-talk, and
What was going through your mind? Was there, other than like your friends, giving you advice and things like that, did you kind of reach a moment of clarity, or was it more like do this and then here's the next step? Like what was your mind going through?
I think a lot of it was just kind of thinking through, because as you become more familiar with the trail as you're kind of out there, and you've done a couple of laps now, so it's just kind of like talking yourself through some of the terrain, because there's certain parts of it that were harder than others. There's definitely this hill that you had to climb that was pretty rough, and you'd have these really spiny bushes out there that would cross over the path. So you're running through this stuff. It's got scratches and scrapes all up and down your arms and legs. And, you're just kind of like, oh man, here it comes. And you're kind of like preparing yourself for,
there's no way
different parts
around
of the trail. Not there. No, it's like you have one trail. If you go off trail, there's really not much else to get into, but more of that stuff.
Yeah.
So there was one part of that trail that was just really heavy with those bushes, and it was just nasty. And, I'd see some people that had longer socks on and compression socks. I'm like, man, I wish I had those. Or, wearing leggings or something like that. It's like, I can see how those might be helpful in a moment like this. But I finished off, I had just like, looked like I had a rash all up and down my leg. I just had like scratches and pricks and pokes and everything.
Sounds awful.
It was pretty.
Like mesquite bushes?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Jeez. Those are awful. Those are brutal.
That's not fun.
What were you wearing throughout the race? Like what kind of shorts are we looking at? Shoes, everything.
Well, nothing real high fancy and high dollar stuff, just stuff that I pretty much had and had trained in for forever. I didn't want to, try something new that I wasn't accustomed to.
Cotton sweatpants, cotton.
No, so I had like
you look like
the dry fit, undershorts and stuff like that, and then some shorts over the top of that, and they were just probably just some Walmart shorts or something like that. I don't know. I think they're Russells or something like that for my running shorts. And shirts were actually just older shirts from other races that I'd done before in the past. Just more of the dry fit material, something like that. They're just really light and easy. My shoes and socks though were shoes were Hoka's. I wear Speed Goat 5s. I tried some other ones in the past. And I do like other brands and other types, but with that kind of rough, rocky terrain, the amount of cushion on the Speed Goats are really nice. Kind of helps protect your feet a little bit from the rough terrain. And the socks, again, nothing real fancy, but I'd found out along in my training that I was always wearing smaller socks, sizes 12 to 13, and my foot's a size 13. And what I found was as my feet would swell with the running, it was starting to push my second toe into the sock. And so I started getting like blistering underneath my second toenail. As I thought it for the longest time was my shoes, like my toe is kind of pushing into the top of the shoe box or the toe box. But I found out it's the socks. And so I found some extra large socks. So I was able to kind of pull them off the end of my toes a little bit so they weren't pushing into it. And that made a huge difference in everything. Unfortunately, I noticed that about a month before the race. So I was able to start training a little bit better that way and not, losing my second toenail every other week.
Wow.
So
that's crazy. You troubleshot it on your own. And
fortunately, yes.
So you're saying that you are open to other sponsorships?
Yes.
For shoes and everything.
Yeah. I get a big sponsor on my back or on my chest, whatever.
Exactly. Wear a hat.
Yeah.
Hat.
No hat.
Dang.
No. I had sunglasses and stuff with me.
Okay.
I had some Iron Man sunglasses. Those were, I guess, one name brand thing, Something my wife got me for Christmas this last year.
That's cool.
I really like those, good clarity and stuff on them. But yeah, I'm not huge into hats. I've tried them before in the past, and with as much sweat out there, it's just kind of a mess. They gave you these cool little things that you can use to kind of put on your head, or you could use them around your neck or wrap them around wherever, just to kind of help cool you, kind of soak them. And so for the first part of the race, just kind of had it wrapped around my wrist, and I would soak it in water and then just kind of dab my face as I'm running. During the heat of the day, though, I actually would soak it and I just put it on my head like a headband. And so that way, it just kind of kept some cool temperature on the top of my head. So that was kind of nice. As a neat little thing that I hadn't used before in the past. I'd seen some of my friends use something similar when we do some runs out in the middle of the day. And so I guess it's just kind of a neat little trick to kind of help keep you cooled down during those long runs in the heat of the day.
On your back? What were you rocking on your did you have like a camel pack or something?
I do have it's not a camel pack necessarily, but it is a hydration pack. I can't remember the name of it.
You don't go name brand, do you?
Well, the name of it is unusual. I don't even know if I could pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
The spelling, I don't even know if I can tell you the spelling on it. It is I don't know. I'd have to send a picture of it or something to you. But
for those of you at home, I give Ben a hard time because he never goes and eats out anywhere, or you don't take your kids to eat out very often.
We don't go out to eat very often at all.
So I give him grief about that. So in my head, when you said no, I don't have a Camelback, I'm just thinking Walmart bag, long straw, you figured it out on your own.
I've kind of stuck a few straws together and kind of looped it around.
Exactly. And they're like the easy, what are they, do you remember the the loopy straws?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that way you can kind of adjust it a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. No, so it's a nice one. And again, I wish I knew the name of it. Water Buffalo is the actual water pouch that fits in this hydration pack. Okay. That one I know. Because I've had to order a few of them because they've sprung a couple leaks over the years that I've used it. But yeah, so that I had that on. I always kept about 2 liters of water in there. So whenever I get to a water station, I'd always top off. So it's about a 2 liter pouch.
Okay.
And so even if it wasn't empty, I would always refill it. I made the mistake once on one of those laps where I didn't refill it the last aid station before I was coming into the 25-mile mark, and kind of regretted. I was kind of having to pace myself a little bit with what I was drinking. Yeah. And so I always made sure that every station I was refilling that thing up. And the first lap I did plain water, but you get tired of that really fast. And so after that, a couple of my friends turned me on to Tailwind. It's a kind of an electrolyte supplement and things like that. And so I would just dump that into the pack as well with the water. And it's nice. It tastes better than water. It gives you some extra calories. I think it's about 100 calories per scoop. So you can get, a few extra calories in just from that. And gives you a little bit extra boost when you're out there.
Yeah. Would you say that you're 100% happy with your decision to do this race?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think you gained from it, overall?
A lot of self-discipline, that's for sure. And a lot of, I think, mental confidence as well. I'd done a marathon years back. The first marathon I'd done back in 2006. And then for several years after that, I had a lot of difficulty thinking about doing another full marathon. I do a number of half marathons. I'd feel good about it. As I felt good after the run. I could, still do plenty of stuff at home. I didn't feel like I was just kind of, smashed and I wasn't able to do anything.
Yeah.
But, I'd finished those half marathons, and the thought of turning around and doing that again for a full marathon just kind of mentally wore me out. And, going through all this training, I mean, training days, I was running a marathon, multiple days in a row.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The biggest week I had leading up to the race, I did 15 miles on Thursday, 25 on Friday, 30 on Saturday. It's 70 miles in 3 days. And it's,
wow.
You start to build a little bit more of that mental toughness to it. You start to become more attuned to your body, kind of listening to it well, kind of finding out those things that work well for you and those things that don't work well for you, and then how to kind of modify and adjust to it. And I found that if I just go out and run without any plan to it, sometimes I would wear out faster. Whereas if I had a determined time or number of miles that I had to hit that day, it was a whole lot easier for me to push myself to do it. And so going into this race, kind of building that stamina up for each of those different races, each of those different days of training, going into this 100-miler, it's like, yeah, it seems daunting, but I've already built my mind up to the fact, like, okay, I got 100 miles to do. I've trained for this. I've put in all the energy and effort I can to prepare myself for this. Now all I have to do is just trust in the training and let it happen.
Sure.
And then just kind of let my mind push me through that.
I feel like some of the complaints that we have day-to-day life, it's very relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you're saying, marathon just sounds like a absolute task. I don't want to do it. But when you've got, in mind 100 miles, these marathons don't seem as big because you're looking forward to that, right? Just like anything else. It's crazy to think about because I was doing something about, we were doing a challenge where we did 2 workouts a day, like all these things. I told you about it, 75 hard.
Yep.
And like before that, I was like, to get to the gym and it's not going to happen. But I got to do it twice. So I got to get to the gym early because if not, then my whole day's ruined. I got to do 2 more, kind of like that. I mean, it just seems like, hey, I'm going to get out there and run it. I've got to do it. If not, I can't hit that 100-mile mark. So yeah, that's crazy.
The big thing, I mean, is it's kind of, you're letting yourself down if you don't, right? And I'm sure you experienced that during all of that, is like, if you didn't do it, who's the biggest person you're letting down?
Exactly.
Is yourself.
Exactly.
And so going through this, and on my mind during the race, I had thoughts of, these friends of mine that are runners, my family who's kind of put up with me doing all the training and things like that. I've kind of invested a lot of my patients knew that I was doing this race, all my coworkers.
Yes.
So a lot of people knew I was involved in this and doing this. And so as I'm running, I'm thinking like, I can't let any of these people down. But at the forefront of my mind, the biggest thing is I can't let myself down. It's like, I've put in way too much time and energy into this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to stop. And so, unless I had broken my leg or something else, I wasn't going to stop this race. And so I was just going to keep going until I cross that finish line, no matter how I was feeling at the end.
Was that part of your strategy? Was letting people know? Because that
was a big part of it. Yeah.
It's like an accountability thing.
Yeah,
you got to tell people.
I'm not a person who likes to kind of boast, brag, or kind of, lift myself up in other people's eyes. And so it was really that was kind of a hard part, and so people knew I was training and I was running. They would ask what for. And I'm like, yeah, I'm running a race. Like, how far? I was like, 100 miles.
Yeah, right.
Like, what? And so, so there were a lot of people, and, of course, word of mouth kind of passed through, whether it's a clinic, because then my coworkers like telling their patients, like, he's got, because I'd come in late for work. So I'd change my schedule around a little bit so I can get some running done before I came into work. So I'd come in a little bit later in the morning, like, oh yeah, how much did you run this morning? 25. And they're like, you ran 25 miles? I'm like, yes. And so a lot of patients knew about it. So that first week after coming back, like, so many people asked, how did the race go? How did the race go? So there's a lot of people that had invested time and energy into this as well. And so again, that was kind of a big motivator. Is like, I can't let these people down. But again, the biggest part is like, I can't let myself down. There's just way too much that I've done for this.
Yeah.
But telling people about it, again, talk about goal setting, right? You want to tell somebody, otherwise there's no accountability.
There's none.
It's easy to back out. And so I had to at least tell some people, of course, my family had to know that why I was spending so much time out running.
Why is he always out? Like,
why are you running so much? Oh, I just love it so much.
Yeah.
But it started there. And then of course went to my running friends, and then started leaching out into, my patients, my coworkers, because of the time I was taking off from work to prepare for this. So, but yeah, that helps having a good support system behind you.
I had heard that you just really didn't like your job at the time. So you're just really debating, should I be here or not? I'm just going to.
Well, there's one
tell him I'm
patient that just turned me off to that job. And I couldn't stand him.
He had a knee injury. He's finally gone. All right. What was the diet on race day? Like before, because you said you started at 4.
Yeah.
So do you, it's not like surgery where you're just like, you can't eat anything. You probably need to eat stuff, but you got to be smart. What'd you do?
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where I kind of fell short on that first lap where I talked about kind of feeling tired 15 miles in is I didn't realize how far out away from town the starting spot was because I got there a little early. But, town was, 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have time to go grab something a couple hours before. I had some stuff with me and I had some stuff prepared. So really like just before that started, I had I think it was like 3 hard-boiled eggs and what else did I have?
Did you make them?
I think I had some like electrolyte fluids and stuff like that I was drinking and stuff like that to wash it down. But
did you make the hard-boiled eggs?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say the store-bought ones are sketchy.
Right. It's like, again, I'm going off of stuff that I have used and I have done. And so, my own hard-boiled eggs. And so that, I think, again, was kind of the downside to lap 1 is I don't think I got enough in me. Because I didn't want to eat all of them because I had to ration them out for the whole race. And so I had like 3 hard-boiled eggs and I think I had just some stuff to drink. And I did that about 45 minutes before the race started because I don't want anything sitting fresh in there. And then each lap that I would come through, I would sit down. I'd have, I made a big batch of like mashed potatoes. And that really tasted so good after each lap. Oh. I again had to ration it out. Can't make myself sick. And so, I'd eat a bunch of that and I'd wash it down with a Coke. I'm not usually big into drinking Coke or caffeine or anything like that. But I'd found out, probably a year or 2 ago that I was always wondering why there was Coke at the end of a race. Why do all these people drink that? Of all drinks, why that? Come to find out, it settled the stomach pretty well. I kind of gave you a little bit of extra energy from the caffeine and then the sugar and things like that kind of picked you up a little bit. And so I'd always just get like the little small cans of Coke. And so I'd eat my mashed potatoes, wash it down with a Coke. And then I would replenish my pack with the electrolyte fluid. So I drink some of that. I had some of that on hand there as well. And I met some really nice people that had their gear kind of stacked right next to mine. And it's a wonderful couple from Houston. And this guy had done a couple of these races already, and his wife was a dietitian. And we got into talking before. And so it's funny because after each lap, I'd come back and there's something on my cooler.
Oh, that's cool.
there was a Gatorade after the first lap. Second lap, she had gone off and went to sleep at a hotel somewhere, so there was nothing there. But so she was the one that was giving me the stuff. And
you started to ask around, like, "Hey, wait a minute,
where did this come from?" It's like, is it laced with something? Is somebody trying to get me out of the race?
That's actually something that could be scary. Like if he was in front of you.
Right.
He doesn't want you to be.
And then like the third lap, there was like a quarter of a watermelon that was there. And then at the end of lap 4, like there was a pizza.
Whoa,
there.
A whole pizza.
Yeah, it was a smaller pizza, and it was just like a plain cheese pizza, and it tasted so good though. And so I had my mashed potatoes in between each lap. I think between laps 3 and 4, I'd run out of my mashed potatoes, so I had some pasta there, just some plain noodles that have like olive oil and salt and stuff on them. And so I had some of that, and again my Cokes, and I usually use a 5-hour energy between each lap too.
Oh, really? Okay.
So after I'd down like my Coke, everything, I'd slam a 5-hour energy and hit the trail, and I think that may have been one thing that kind of helped keep me cognizant and aware. I've heard of other people talking about getting like hallucinating and stuff after these runs, these races, just seeing weird things. And it's like, I didn't feel any of that. Fortunately, I felt attentive and alert. I felt kind of awake and, energetic throughout the most of the race. So fortunately.
Did you ever consider smelling salts?
No.
Has anybody ever used those?
I've heard of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd heard of that. And I didn't really feel like that would be anything I'd need to or even want to do.
Yeah. No, it just sounds awful.
Sounds.
Sounds.
I've heard how terrible they are, but I had heard about it before.
Yeah.
kind of kickstart your system into alertness.
Yeah. So you won't be in hallucination world.
Right. I could have used it after the race when I was driving home. That would have been a different story, but
yeah.
So
you drove home right afterwards? You didn't even take a minute?
Kind of had to. I didn't book a hotel before because I had no idea what time I was going to finish. You know, so if I booked it for Saturday night, but I didn't really finish until Sunday morning, I just wasted a reservation. So I thought, worst case scenario, I'll go back to the hotel I stayed at Thursday night. And so I finished the race. It's 10 o'clock at night on Saturday. By the time I'm all cleaned up, got all my stuff gathered up, and I'm out of there, it's about midnight. And so they didn't have anything there in Bandera, Texas. Everything was booked up, and it's not a very big town.
Okay.
And so I drive back to where I had stayed before, and the lady's like, well, all we have left is a king suite for $250 a night. I was like, well, I don't want to spend that much. I'm only going to be here for 6-7 hours. I mean, just to clean up, sleep a little bit, and leave. So I didn't want to spend that much. So I'm like, well, there's another one across the way. So I went over to this other hotel, completely booked up, nothing available.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, I'll hit the road. I'm sure I'll come across another town, see what they have out there. So I did. I got to a place, kind of topped off with gas, grabbed a couple things, and I drove by a hotel that looked really sketchy. So I just kept on driving. And I thought, you know what, I'll just keep driving as far as I can and as long as I can and see if I come across anything. And about a half hour down the road, I am tired. And I took another 5-hour energy, didn't do a thing for me. Like at that point, I think I was my body just shut down and said, you're done. So I'd stopped off at a rest stop and just kind of rocked my seat back. And I was just right behind a semi truck. And my left knee was just bothering me. For whatever reason, it would not let me rest or sleep. I just kind of kept tossing and turning, fought it for about an hour. At that point, I was like, all right, I'm getting out of here. So I just left about another half hour down the road, still just kind of get just uncomfortably tired.
Yeah.
So I pull off at another rest stop. At this point, I'm able to sleep a little bit. Knee's not bothering me anymore. So I'd, lay on my side for about 20 minutes and then sleep there. And then I'd flip over, sleep there, flip over, and kind of kept doing this for about an hour and a half. And then, at that point, I finally got up. It was starting to lighten up outside, so I thought, okay, with the sun up, maybe it'll be a little bit easier. So I hit the road and doing okay for a little bit. It lasted about an hour and a half. And I get tired again. So I find another.
How far was the drive home?
It's about 7 hours, 6.5, 7 hours.
There's a
so it's just outside of San Antonio.
Okay.
So I find another truck stop, kind of pull over there. At this point, I was tired enough. I just crashed out for a good solid hour. I was just out, and I wake up to a semi truck honking behind me. I get up, look out behind me, and the semi truck apparently wants the spot that I'm parked in.
Really?
Yeah. And then I realized that this is a semi truck parking lot that I'm in my little Honda Civic. So it's like he stands a better chance than I do. So I get out, and I move out and hit the road. And from that point on, I was pretty good. I wasn't really tired or sleepy or anything more at that point, but then I'm just starting to really stiffen up. And
I bet.
For the early part of the drive, I was okay, but that last hour or so coming in from Pecos, my legs just were getting achy and sore. I'm just, you couldn't get comfortable no matter how you shifted your body. And finally made it into town, shower, cleaned up, got all my stuff put away, and I crashed out for a couple hours after that.
And did you do anything that Sunday? Was it the Sunday?
So yeah, I got home Sunday around noon. And so, yeah, after I got all cleaned up and took a nap, got up, of course, got a bunch of food to eat. And I had to catch a plane the next morning up to Salt Lake City.
Holy smokes.
I was going up there with my boss to go recruit new PT students up there. So I had to catch a flight out of Hobbs at 7 in the morning. So I was up by about 3:30 that next morning, getting everything ready and back out the door. And so I didn't have time to be sore and hurt. And but the fortunate thing is soreness was a big concern as far as how I was going to be feeling. My legs were sore for about 2 days, fortunately. The biggest soreness I had, I think, was my right foot where that blistering started to develop.
Yeah.
That lasted for probably about 5 days. And that was just kind of sore. And I had to be on my feet quite a bit while we were up there. And so I kind of irritated a little bit. And I didn't have any buckets of ice that I could stick my foot in there at the hotel room. So I just kind of dealt with it. And eventually felt good. So that next that next week, Monday, I was back out for a short run, and everything's kind of back on track again. And
so are you looking at number 2? Is that what we're working at, or we're just kind of
not right now?
keeping the routine?
Getting back into a routine now. That's one thing I don't want to do. And I was actually talking with a couple of my coworkers today is that, because they asked, like, are you back out running? I was like, yeah, I went out and ran 10 miles on Saturday down at the La Cueva Trails. And like, what? And it's like, I was like, I put all that time and energy into getting into this condition. It's like, well, I don't want to let it slip and slide now. And so the sooner I can get back into condition, the better off I'm going to be. And that doesn't have to be as aggressive and as intensive as it was leading up to this race. But, I want to maintain a couple days a week in the morning before work, between 6 to 8 miles. And then on the weekends, something longer between 10 to 15 miles or something like that, just to kind of keep my body in good condition. And should I decide on this race, the preparation time won't be as long. I took a friend of mine had given me a 6-month training program. So I've been training for this at least 6 months, and I started even sooner than that. So, I spent a good part of a year preparing for this race, and don't want to fall behind on that. And then if I do want to do it again, the more I'm already kind of prepped ahead of time, the less time I'm going to have to really be grunting it before work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wow. Pretty awesome stuff. I mean, it's really cool to hear about it, and obviously the mental side of things. I don't think I could have lasted like that without music, without podcast.
I was surprised I made it.
Yeah,
I thought I was going to go crazy.
I'd have hallucinated in the first couple hours thinking about it. But if we were to keep up with you, how fast would we need to go? What is the pace?
Those kind of races are a little bit slower, just because, again, you're on uneven ground. It's really uncertain, a lot more technical on rough trail, things like that. And so depends on the length. And I've mentioned this to other people before, because they've asked the same question. Well, what's your pacing? Like, well, it depends. Am I running 3 miles on asphalt? Am I running 10 miles on asphalt? Am I running 10 miles?
Yeah, give me a short 3 mile flat ground.
Flat ground 3 miles. I am looking at about 7.5 minute mile.
Okay.
So my, one small goal I would like is to get under a 20-minute 5K. So that may be something
That'd be cool.
Small to kind of get to. That's pushing under 7 minutes. And so, I haven't run at that speed since probably high school. And, so most of my regular runs on a, 5 to 6 mile run, I'm probably looking, closer to 7.5 to 8 minute mile pacing. Longer distance runs, 15, 20 miles, I'm looking more probably about 9 to 9.5.
Yeah.
And then that's flat.
Really good.
That's flat ground. And then if you're going on to trail, it depends on how much elevation gain you're getting, how much you got there. That all varies too. So, that can go anywhere from 9.5 to 13. So,
sure.
So
wow.
It varies.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ben, thank you so much for being on. Appreciate it. I learned a lot, and I'm glad you got through it. I'm glad you got through it without any injuries. That's
me too.
Good.
The fact that I'm up, moving, and feeling good, and about nearly 100%. Not quite 100% yet. I'd say probably about 95 to 98% right now. But again, my 10-mile run this last Saturday felt good, so I was happy with it. And I'm glad I'm not plagued with any injuries this time around either. So
if I was you, I'd have faked an injury, called my boss, said, hey, I can't come, and I'd have gone and hung out in San Antonio, gotten something good to eat. But Ben, thanks again for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Very welcome.
We got to interview 2 different Ben Frestons.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Trey.